All right, well, Kufar Akbar, everybody. Welcome to another edition of the Crossing Discussion Group. We are a YouTube live stream show dedicated to rightly dividing the truth between Christianity and Islam. We are here every Monday evening, and for the time being, it's every Monday evening at 5:30 Central Standard Time p.m. It's normally 5, but we've had to back it up a half hour because I have an activity every Monday afternoon at 3 to 5 that I got to be at. And so we pushed it back. All right. So today, folks, we, as you can see, we are streaming from a new platform. Very good. Yes, I like that. We have little reaction emojis to go along with it. We didn't have that before. I have pretty much dumped StreamYard. I have not formally canceled my subscription to them, but when they raised the fees from, we were at $25 a month, now it's $45 a month. And, if you're paying for a quality product, that's fine, but there was no change in the service. You just went up $20 a month. $20 a month is $20 a month, it's $250 a year. Every 4 years, that's $1,000. Every 40 years, that's $10,000. It doesn't matter. It's still too much money. So this one is $17 a month, I think it is. And it's a lot. I don't know. It seems like it has more features to it. We'll find out. But it's a little cumbersome so you're going to have to be patient with us because it's, I don't know. It's hard to get used to new platforms.
Hey, just to let you know, we are streaming on Rumble. So
we are on Rumble.
So it did work. So it's kind of weird, but
okay. Right. We had a heck of a time setting it up on Rumble last night. We were very frustrated, were we not, Rad?
Yeah, that's exactly, especially when someone would not follow my instructions.
Yeah, whatever. Okay. Well, it got done. And then when we started the show, starting the show is different also. But we'll get to figure it out. All right. So today we're going to be talking about, actually, we're going to finish where we left off on last Monday. Last Monday, we were talking about how the Gospels have been corrupted and how we know they are corrupted. And at least that's what we thought. When we let's see here, what I'm doing here. I'm going to try to get this up here. Thank you. When we were talking about the Gospels being corrupted last week, we started off with discussing how we know the Gospels were written early. The bottom line is they haven't been corrupted. Let's just get past this little stick here, okay? But they have not been corrupted. One of the biggest arguments that Muslims will shoot at Christians is saying, "Oh, your Gospels have been corrupted. Look at 1 John 5:7. Look at the long ending of Mark. The woman caught in adultery. That proves that it's been corrupted." No, it does not. That just shows that there's been insertions into the Gospels as the years progress. That's all that shows. And I'm going to be going over the exact numbers of what they're talking about here as we get going. And then the first thing that we showed to disprove that is that there is no period for embellishment. Meaning that by the time that Christ died on that cross and was crucified, died on that cross, resurrected, 33 AD, 30 AD, really the exact year really does not matter, but let's just put it at 33 AD, to the time that the Gospel of John, the last Gospel was written, was about 34 years. 67 AD is where I put the Gospel of John, and I showed last week why the Gospel of John could not have been written any later than 67 AD, because in John chapter 5, verse 2, it says that there are colonnades in Jerusalem at the pool of Bethesda. Well, the pool of Bethesda and those colonnades were destroyed during the Roman siege of Jerusalem, which was culminated in 70 AD. So if John's writing, now there is in Jerusalem 5 colonnades, but you can't say that they exist. They're now in Jerusalem. There are 5 colonnades if they've been destroyed. And then what we did is we backed that all the way up to how we know that Mark Matthew and Mark were written around 50 AD, and how putting Luke about the mid 50s, maybe even as late as 60 AD, and how Acts were written after that. And we pointed out all kinds of significant facts that are included and omitted from the book of Acts, how we know that it was written before the martyrdom of Paul and Peter. One thing I will say is that if you want a copy of the slideshow that I will be presenting again tonight and last week, it's all one slideshow, just email me at ericthekefer@gmail.com, and I will be more than happy to send it your way. All I would ask is that you just give me some type of attribution for creating it. But I also include the sources for the information that is in the slideshow with it. And the second thing that we pointed at was the early church fathers, what the early church fathers had to say about what Christianity was. The complaint is, and I'm just going to say it is complaint, it's not an objection, because if it was objection, it would have some type of scholarly or factual basis to it. But the complaint is that the Christianity had changed from what Jesus taught. So the question then becomes, when and by whom was it changed? When we look at the early church fathers and the patristic writings from the early church fathers, I showed you clearly that even the earliest church fathers, Ignatius, a disciple of John, Polycarp, a disciple of John, Clement of Rome, a disciple of Paul and Peter, and Papias, a disciple of John, all believed that Jesus Christ was God incarnate. All of them believed that. And each subsequent church father in the patristic writings says that Jesus Christ was God incarnate. This idea that it was a later development, embellishment by the church, somehow thought up and pushed out by Constantine during the Council of Nicaea, is stupid. You would have to be...
Wait. Hold on, Eric. According to all Muslim scholars, and they all agree, that it was Constantine who invented the Bible. Are you saying that's not true?
Constantine had the Bible printed. I can't remember how many copies he made of it, but that does not mean that he made the Bible. That's stupid. It was just what
I'm shocked by this information that is readily available everywhere, but yet Muslims still keep repeating this, that it was Constantine who invented the Bible.
Well, what they're doing is they're preying on the ignorances of Christians, and that's their goal, is to lie to you, prey on your ignorance, hoping to convert you to that death cult that they call Islam.
Yes.
That's what they're doing. Paul, it looks like you're not moving. It looks like you're frozen. Are you okay over there? Oh, there you are. Okay. You're.
I'm fine. It's just, I think it's kind of quirky, the system. That's all.
Yeah, you are freezing. You're not having the. I don't know. It's not.
And I'm on pretty high thread here, so
yeah.
So I don't know what's going on.
You're also sitting under about what, 9 feet of snow up there right now?
Oh no! We didn't have any. We didn't have more than dust.
Oh really? We're getting snow here tonight. Believe it or not, I can fear
We're
it.
supposed to get a little bit of dust. That's about it.
We just got cold and bullets here in Chicago, but that's beside the point. Anyway,
well, the cold will keep the guys shooting inside at least.
we hope, but I don't know. Anyway, so getting back to say Rob K is in the room, and let's give him a shout out. Please bear with us, our audience, as we adjust to the quirkiness of the new software. Very interesting stuff here. But wait, Eric, so you were saying, okay, that Constantine did not write or corrupt the Bible. Please continue on where I interrupted you, please.
Yeah. Well, this is an awful made charge, is that it was Constantine at the Council of Nicaea where Christ was turned into God. And of course, anybody with a modicum of historical knowledge knows that it's not true. The Council of Nicaea was called by Constantine. This is true. However, it was called to settle the heretical issue of Arianism. where in Arianism they do not believe that Jesus Christ is eternal, that he was a created being, and this is not true. And another thing that is really insulting when you look at this charge of these bishops that were called to the council, called to Nicaea, was the fact that they had just lived through the Council of Nicaea was 323 AD. Am I right on this? I'm pretty sure I'm right on this. 323 AD. The majority of the bishops that attended this council had endured, and I'm going to talk about this Roman emperor here in a
Real
little bit.
quick, fact check, it was 325 AD, but continue on, please.
Was it 325? I don't know why I say 323, but 325.
But no, I had to point that out because we didn't. The Muslims will all be screaming. There would be YouTube videos made, papers written. Oh my God, Eric doesn't know when the Council of Nicaea was, so we had to point that out.
I think it went for a while, so I don't know. I have to double check that.
Okay.
Fact check me, guys. I don't mind being fact check. I don't mind it at all. But what they
325.
what's that?
It is 325.
Yeah, is that when they wrote the Nicene? Or was it called in 323?
It's at the end of 325. I think it started though. I think it started in
right. Put in inclusive dates of Council of Nicaea and see what it says.
It might have been called in 323.
Yeah,
Remember, things took time to get everybody together. Yeah.
Yeah, so they proposed the proposed dates were between 318 and 322, but things didn't start till a little later. So yeah,
it's okay. It's okay. It was the point I'm trying to make. The point I'm trying to make is that these bishops that attended the Council of Nicaea had endured the reign of Diocletian, the persecution of Diocletian. If you don't know anything about the persecution of Diocletian, I would suggest you look it up. This guy reigned hell on earth on Christians. These bishops that attended this council, the Council of Nicaea, were bearing the scars and the what they had endured during that
They were
time.
missing eyes. They were missing limbs.
Yeah,
These are the survivors. Yes.
They were survivors.
As a matter of fact,
Do you think that somebody is going to be able to get them to go back on their most deeply held theological positions based on what they had learned and had defended through that persecution of Diocletian? You have to be a fool.
As a matter of fact, to put this in context really quickly, the persecution of Diocletian was worse than the persecution under Nero, according to historians.
Yeah.
Okay, this is how bad it was. Not only that, but a quick reference, if you want to learn about Rome, I highly suggest you look up, or especially early Rome, but you have to look up the podcast by Mike Duncan. It's old out there, but it deals with Rome. He wrote the book. It's called The Calm Before the Storm. Or no, the book is called The Storm Before the Storm, but it deals with the early Roman Republic, okay, which nobody ever knows about, up until the time of Caesar. But his podcast goes through all the Roman emperors until around 470, 500, and that's when Rome ceased to exist. Even though the Byzantines still called themselves Romans, but he pretty much ended it there. But anyway, he's got a great podcast. Look up what did I say his name was? Duncan? I forgot what did I say his name was? Anyway, look up The Storm Before the Storm. You will get his name, and then you will be able to look up his podcast. It is excellent. It is over like 2 years of listening. I'm just saying. But anyway, sorry, continue on.
What was it? This is a podcast, you said?
Yes, well, he did a podcast, okay, before he wrote the book, but the podcast from the early part of Rome is his book. In other words, he was writing the book and then doing the podcast. Do you see what I'm saying? In the early days, but he went further in the podcast. He could probably do a second book.
Mike Duncan, The Storm Before the Storm?
The Storm Before the Storm.
The beginning of the Roman Empire. Mike Duncan. It's right here on Amazon. And hardcover, paperback, It's on Kindle, and you can get the audio book.
Which I have, that's what I have. I do know. I do everything audiobooks on. You know, I forgot how to write cursive, and I forgot how to read now because I do everything audio. It seems. Just let you know.
Yeah, that's one of the reasons why I'm really not pursuing this book idea. Is because everybody writes books that nobody reads.
Well, that's why you should do it as a podcast. We could do it as a podcast.
That's what I'm thinking. Maybe do some YouTube videos, like a series of things.
Right.
I don't know. Well, we're still bouncing around. Okay, so let's go. And then, so we went into the recent writing of the gospel. So there's no embellishment. And then the fact that the early church fathers provide all kinds of attestation to the fact that Jesus Christ was God incarnate. Now, this, of course, is what they believed. This is what they were taught. This was the early Christian church. There was no change in this. So when they make this charge that Christianity, the same Christianity that we have today, or the Christianity we have today is not the same thing that we had 2,000 years ago, is a lie. It is an outright lie. The Christian church has always believed that Jesus Christ died on the cross. He was born of a virgin, and that he lived a sinless life, and that through his resurrection, we are saved and can have life eternal with God the Father. The Christian church has always believed this. To try to say that it was changed is a lie, and what you're doing is you're trying to lie to Christians to fool them into your cultish type belief system called Islam. And that is a sad position to be in, is when you have to lie in order to get people to think that Muhammad was somehow a prophet. If you want to debate the Quran or Muhammad with me, we can spend 12 hours doing it. I will provide you all the information that you could ever want about Muhammad. But the only thing that they can talk about is the Bible, and the Bible. And they lie, and they lie, and they lie, and they lie. And so you just, it gets old after a while. Okay, let's go ahead and show this on the stream. This was the conclusion from last week's show. We were just getting ready to do it, but somebody logged in and then pushed the wrong button and ended the stream. I'm not going to mention any names, Radical Martyr, but what we're going to do is we're just going to continue from that point at the end of the stream last week to where I was making these concluding arguments that when we look at the evidence for the Gospels, we have more evidence for the Gospels than any other work from antiquity. We have early attestation all the way, the Gospel of John, I think, is the Ryland Papyrus is dated like 120 AD. That's the earliest scrap of manuscript that we have, all the way up to Santiago Atticus and the Vaticanus complete Bibles in the 4th century. So what we do have today is what, and then, oh, by the way, that Ryland Papyrus is what we have today. So all of the manuscript evidence that we do have is confirming what we do have today. Now, granted, and as I mentioned earlier, there were insertions and there are variants. I get that, but it is not corrupted to the point where you can say that Jesus was not crucified on the cross. And that's what you have to do in order to be a Muslim, because in the Quran, it denies his crucifixion. The second thing that we concluded was all of the early church fathers, the gospel writers and the church fathers, patristic writings, all proclaim the deity of Christ. And then if you cannot believe what the gospels teach or taught, then you can't really believe anything from history, because there's more attestation for the historical events described in the gospels than any other work from antiquity describing historical events. As a matter of fact, Luke is rated as a first-class historian. Okay, let's look at the preservation of the biblical record. Now, again, we're going to go back to 70 AD. 70 AD is where the Roman Empire destroyed the Jewish temple in Jerusalem and those 5 colonnades by the Pool of Bethesda. Now there is in Jerusalem by the Pool of Bethesda 5 colonnades written by John in the Gospel of John, chapter 5, verse 2. So puts the Gospel of John prior to the destruction of the temple in Jerusalem, which would put the book of Acts prior to John's Gospel. The book of Acts concludes with Paul being in prison, and he's still alive, and that his martyrdom occurred in 64 AD. And then you have the Gospel of Luke, which was written before Acts because Luke tells us that at the beginning of the prelude to both of those books. And then you have the Gospel of Matthew. And then before Matthew, you're going to have Mark. And I've showed why you can back that all the way up into the 40s, or at least the early 50s AD. Then we went over the patristic traditions, the early church fathers and their writings, Irenaeus, Ignatius, Tertullian, Origen, Papias, all of those early church writings. When we look at the Gospels, like I mentioned a couple minutes ago, the Ryland Papyrus P52 was dated at 130. There we go. We have 5,600 copies of the Greek New Testament. When you compare that to Homer, now keep in mind the Gospels are written between 45 to 70 AD. All right. From the event is like 15 years if it's 30 AD, 12 years if it's 33. Maximum would be, what would that be, 30, 40 years maximum from the time that it occurred. And the earliest extant manuscript is 60 years after that. That's pretty darn close. And then plus we got 5,600 copies. That's really good. Let's look at Homer and his Iliad. You have, it was written 900 BC. 500 years later, we have the first copy. And we have about 640 copies, which is really good for such an ancient text. The writings of Aristotle, 322 BC. The earliest extant copy is 1100 AD. That is, 1,400 years later? And we have 49 copies of that. Tacitus, writing around 100 AD. 1,000 years later is our first copy, and we only have 20 copies of that. Suetonius, 150 AD. 800 years after that, we get one copy, and we only have 8 copies of his. Herodotus, 450 BC, and that is 1,350 years separating the original to the first copy. Plato, again, 1,350 years. So when you look at how long you have the first, or when it was written to the time that you have the first copy and how many copies, the Bible wins out every single time. You cannot beat it. When you look at the, there we go. When you look, now I lost my train of thought. The Hadith. When you look at the Hadith collection. Well, hold on. Let's just start with the Quran. The earliest Quran is the Sana manuscript. And the Sana manuscript has been carbon dated to, I think the earliest date was 488 BC, or not 488 BC, 488. Maybe it was 388. Anyway, the bottom line is that the Quran predates the Quran. The Sana manuscript predates the Quran, if you're going to just use the carbon 14 dating, which is really weird, how you can predate the book by centuries when it's supposed to be written down. But with that said,
That's
when
a
you
miracle.
look, alhamdulillah. Yeah, alhamdulillah.
It's a miracle.
When you look at the Sana manuscript itself, it's a palimpsest, meaning that there's an underwriting. So even the underwriting does not match what we have today. So when Muslims start talking about perfect preservation, ask them, what in the hell are you talking about? When you look at the Sana manuscript, how can you have perfect preservation when we can clearly say or show that the earliest manuscript that we have of the Quran, don't give me this Birmingham Folio baloney. That's the earliest manuscript. No, it's not, because it just has 3 stories that all 3 of these stories are known to predate the Quran. It's the story of Moses. The 7 sleepers of Ephesus is in there, and there's something else. And the wording is all different than the Quran. So don't give me this crap that the Birmingham
Here's a funny side story. Funny side story on the Birmingham Quran, or the Birmingham Folio, whatever you want to call it. We have a lecture given when this came out. This is back pre-pandemic. Yeah, this is pre-pandemic. It was probably 2018, 2019. I have to look it up. But this scholar, he is the preeminent scholar on ancient Arabic manuscripts, not just the Quran, but just the writing Okay, I mean, he's the guy you call if you come into contact with an ancient handwritten manuscript, whatever it is, you want him to verify it and date it and date its authenticity. Anyway, he studied it, and he said that the writing itself is not Uthmanic Quran. It is late 8th century, okay, script. Okay.
Which Birmingham folio is?
Yeah, the Birmingham one. Yeah. So no, so it is not the early, it is not the Quran of Uthman or during the time of Uthman. It's like 200 years later, according to the writing. Now, the carbon dating of the parchment, okay, might be something. Remember, the parchment they would keep. So you could actually have a parchment that was created 300 years before the writing was put to it. You know what I mean? So the parchment could be very well, the vellum or whatever you call it, could be very well dated to that time period. Okay, but even that was off because the parchment or the vellum was dated like 100 years before Muhammad. You know what I mean? Okay, so the whole thing, it was just kind of funny, didn't add up. And I remember I got into an argument with Paul Williams on this, and he actually responded to me on later. He's like, "Yes, you were correct. This is wrong."
Yeah, well, to keep vellum around without using it is, for me, it's really not that plausible. And here's why. Please hear me out here.
Mm-hmm.
It's not that plausible simply because it's so expensive. And for you to get vellum, which is, animal skins, have them prepared, dried, stretched, scraped, all these things they do, to begin writing on them and not do it and just hold them.
Oh, no. I'm not saying it was like stored for hundreds of years. No, this stuff was used because there's palimpsests on it. It was scraped away, erased, and then reused. So yes, you can have vellum that predates by 100 or 150, 200 years or whatever from the actual writing that is on the surface. But once you do the carbon dating, you scrape away and you get the palimpsests, then you realize that, yes, okay, first of all, the writing doesn't match at the time period. Okay, the cursive and stuff like that doesn't match. And secondly, okay, you have all these previous writings underneath it, okay, that predate everything, and they have nothing to do with the Quran. You know what I mean?
Yeah, but they purposely changed it to match what the Quran says today. I mean, you can clearly see where they go in and change it, and they didn't even try to hide it for crying. A lot of times, in some instances, they just crossed through it and wrote what it's supposed. So just to tell me perfect preservation, or try to sell a Christian on perfect preservation, it's not going to work anymore. Your lies have been found out. Your Quran has not been perfectly preserved. And I would prefer that it would have been perfectly preserved. And the reason why is because we can go in and show today that it is historically, it's a historical mess. It's scientifically laughable, theologically untenable. It is a joke of a book. And it's plagiarized for that.
Well, here's what I liken that to. Okay, let's go with, it has been perfectly preserved, letter for letter, dot for dot, tittle for tittle, right? Okay. I can go right now to the local bodega down the street, and they have multiple counterfeit bills that are hung up on their little thing that they show people. This is counterfeit. And I guarantee you, I can show you this, and it looks 100% perfectly real. Okay, it even has the 3D printing in it. It has the texture, the feel. It even has the stripe, okay, in it. But it's 100% fake. So a $100 bill that's 100% perfectly preserved and perfectly fake is 100% worthless and will wind you up in jail. Just as if you practice just as you practice the Quran today, okay, word for word, letter for letter, tittle for tittle, okay, dot for dot. If you practice that, you will wind up in jail in a modern society, okay? So it's completely worthless. But so I want to say that. But you brought up, because we're getting back into this. You brought up the five the colonnades mentioned in the Gospels, right? And the structure of the temple, right? Well, according to Muhammad, and according to Islam, okay, all right, Muhammad actually visited, okay, the temple in the 7th century. I know, totally funny, okay. But no, seriously, he flew on a winged jackass, okay, called the Barak, or the Barak, all right, and flew to the furthest mosque, which they say was the temple, okay, of Jerusalem, which hadn't existed. Calm down, okay. And got there, and hold on, it's called Dome of the Rock. Dude, I am not making this up. According to Hadith, when he got to the temple, the furthest mosque, he was ascended to heaven, and the rocks of the temple, the stones of the temple, followed him up. And they said, "Oh, Muhammad, I want to follow you to heaven." And he pushed down on one of the rocks and said, "No, no, you cannot come to me to Jannah, to meet Allah. You must stay here on earth." And dude, this is called the Dome of the Rock to this day. And they built a dome around an actual rock. And they have a booth set up. And for a modest fee, of course, for contribution, you can stick your hand through this thing, okay? And you can touch and you can feel the fingerprints, allegedly, of Muhammad touching this stone and pushing it back. I know, people. It's
amazing.
But, well, it's amazing. It's a Quranic miracle.
Well, it's a
you continue on.
miracle that he traveled to Al-Aqsa, as they claim, when Al-Aqsa was not built until 705, and this was supposed to have occurred in 622, 623. It's like 80 years difference. Please explain.
Here's another fun fact of history. When Omar, when he rode into Jerusalem in his camel skin coat, and he went to the patriarch of Jerusalem, and where was it? It was at the Holy Sepulchre, Church of Holy Sepulchre, I think he met him at, which was the holy spot for Christians, not the Temple Mount, okay? And he went there, and he said, "Where was the temple," or whatever, down the holy spot, the furthest mosque, I don't know, whatever. Actually, I don't even think he mentions the furthest mosque. He just wants to know where the temple stood. And the patriarch said, "There it is, that hill." Do you know what that was at the time? It was the municipal garbage dump. Fun fact of history. Because the temple was no more, it was destroyed. And it became the municipal garbage dump. So they built their holiest of holy sites on a municipal garbage dump. Fun fact of history. Congratulations, Muslims. Your religion is now built on garbage.
The Dome of the Rock itself, was not built until 691 by Al-Malik. And the Al-Aqsa was not built until 705. The mosque was not built until 705.
Right, but no, what I'm saying, where Omar or Uthman, no, it was Omar, where he said that's where he wanted to pray because he would not pray.
Right.
Okay,
Yeah, I get
okay,
that.
yeah.
In that part.
All right, so he went and prayed at the garbage dump, and then the Muslims came in and they built their holy sites on the garbage dump.
But the story,
God destroyed the temple.
The story is that he went to Al-Aqsa to pray, and it didn't exist in 705.
Oh, right. No, Muhammad, no.
Jerusalem is not
It
even.
literally was. Yeah, it literally was when Muhammad allegedly took the night journey. The Temple Mount, this is my point, was a garbage dump. Literally. Go ahead, sorry.
Right. Well, Jerusalem's not mentioned in the Quran one time. So, this idea that he rode this Pegasus little pony to Jerusalem it's a fairy tale. It might be a vision he had that he rode to the furthest mosque, but our friend John Isaac has sent me a link that talks about The Saudi lawyer claims Al-Aqsa. Never mind. I'm not going to that right from here. I'll go. But anyway, it's not. It's Al-Aqsa's in Saudi Arabia. It's not Jerusalem. So this whole idea is just. I mean, the whole history behind Islam is just a wash. It really is. It's sick. All right, let's jump back into the slideshow again. All right, so we have great attestation for the Gospels. The Quran, and I was going to mention the Hadith too. The Hadith, Al-Bukhari was written down, I think, in 870. Muhammad died in 632. Now, come on, you're going to trust that? That's Bukhari. Muslim was later. All of the other six, the six compilers for Sunni Islam, were written down 240, 250 years after the death of Muhammad. So this is, I don't know. It's sick that people actually believe this and treat it as gold. Okay, so the original letters. How long did they last? The original Gospels, the original epistles. How long do these things last? Well, we have a great example telling us how long people kept writing materials around at a place called Oxyrhynchus in Egypt. In Oxyrhynchus, you had two British archaeologists by the name of Arthur Hunt and Bernard Grenfell. They went there to Egypt to find ancient papyri. And a gentleman there within the town that they were, you got to keep that off there, Red, because I'm going to be throwing some info up here. Oh my goodness, maybe there's more here I didn't see. I'm sorry. Anyway, we'll put that up here in just a little bit. When they got there, they discovered thousands of manuscripts in an ancient garbage dump. Thousands of ancient manuscripts. I mean, it was just like a treasure trove. And it's out in the middle of the desert. It's dry, so these things are well preserved. When you start using stratigraphy, they found that you had second century documents. Second century documents are found in the strata of 4th and 5th century. So if you have second century documents in 4th and 5th century strata, that means that these documents, these second century documents, were being used for 200 and 300 years before they were discarded. So when you look at the time that the work was written to the strata that is found in, it ranges from 75 years to 500 years. I have books here in the Kafir Cave that date back to, the earliest book I have dates back to 1871. That's about 150 years now. I mean, that's a pretty old book. The pages are really brittle, and it's been preserved. I mean, I've kept it in, when I got it, and I'm assuming that it's been kept in very dry and hospitable conditions, but it's still in pretty bad shape. So when you look at how papyri buried can deteriorate quickly, these things have been very well preserved because there's no moisture. But I'm not sure how long that book would last. That's today. But when you look in the past, that wasn't always the case. Most of the documents that were found are anywhere from 100 to 125 years old, which matches that book that I have. And writing back then was very, very expensive. So you're not going to throw it out and cast it away like you would today. You just take a letter and you throw it in the garbage, you put it in the burn barrel. And then the significant number was 300 years. When you look at other letters that lasted a long time, look at the Dead Sea Scrolls, for crying out loud. The Dead Sea Scrolls, most of those were 100 to 150 years old before they were put in those clay jars. Most of them were. Excuse me. 40 of them had been used for 200 years. And the Christian works, I am sorry, I swallowed the wrong way. Hold on.
It's okay, Eric.
I should gargle with that. Good night. When we look at the Vaticanus, this is a 4th century Bible, and it was used and studied The Vaticanus, written in, I can't remember, it was like 300 something AD, was used and studied for 600 years. It wasn't just some artifact that we treat it as now. It was used and studied for 600 years. The Sinaiticus, it was used all the way up to the 7th century, for crying out loud. And then the Codex Bezae, this was, we have documents saying that this is a 4th and 5th century Bible that was repaired in 850. So they're still using these documents centuries after they were written. But this is the most significant one right here. And if you are not paying attention at all during this live stream, that's cool. This is the time to pay attention. This right here, this is the most exciting information right here. When people start saying, well, you don't have the originals. They didn't have the originals. They changed over the years. Shut your pie hole. When you look at the Gospel of John, written 67, 70 AD, who knows? That was widely dispersed among the Christian community worldwide. Lots of copies of it. I get it. But when you look at how long it lasted, this is going to surprise you. Now, during the reign of under Diocletian that we had mentioned earlier, where Diocletian was going across the entire Roman Empire, seizing as many manuscripts as he possibly can, Bibles, scrolls, whatever, and burning them, and then throwing people in jail and actually having them killed for being Christian. This little mention of the Gospel of John is put out. It was written by a bishop in Alexandria in 305, and he's referencing the persecution of Diocletian in 290, and this is what he says. Now it was the preparation about the 3rd hour, as the accurate books have it, and the autograph itself of the evangelist John, which is up to this day. When? In 305 AD, or 290 AD. This is when it was written. Which is up to this day, by his grace of God, been preserved in the most holy churches of Ephesus, and there is venerated by the faithful. So they're venerating the Gospel of John. This makes the original over 200 years old. So if you want to see what the early church believed, see what the early church taught, know what the disciple John wrote, it's right there for 200 years. People would go to the autograph, copy it, and send it out. This did not change. I would even make the presumption that the Sinaiticus and the Vaticanus were either derived from a copy of a single copy of the Gospel of John, which got it from the autograph, or something very close, but nothing on the order in which you were told to believe. It's a copy of a copy of a copy of a. Shut your pie hole. It's not. And this shows you how the ancient world treated old manuscripts. They kept them around for centuries. And in this case, they venerated the Gospel of John that the apostle had written 200 years later. Other references to the age of other manuscripts. Well, you go to Tertullian. This is in 190 in his writing a prescription against heretics. Gee whiz. Where do we find a lot of heretical writings? In the Quran. I mean, if you want to find heresies, Christian heresies, go to the Quran. They're right there, and it's supposed to confirm. And it even says in the Quran, Elizabeth had written it earlier, that the Quran says that it came to confirm the Bible and what was before. And it doesn't. It contradicts it all over the place. But anyway, Tertullian writes here that Paul's autographs still existed. He mentions their autographs still existing in Corinth, Philippi, in Ephesus, all possessing authentic writings of Paul. And he also defends the Gospel of Luke by asserting that it is still in existence to be consulted. This is 190 AD. We have the Gospel of Luke. 290 AD, we have the Gospel of John. Gee whiz. That argument against people going and changing the manuscripts really doesn't hold too much water when evaluating under accurate scholarship. Other references to the age of manuscripts, you have Gaius of Rome, writing in the 3rd century, where he talks about the divine scriptures, saying that they had corrected them, nor can they show the originals from which they made their copies. And so he's talking about is people corrupting the scriptures, saying they're trying to, they have not feared to corrupt the divine scriptures. For this cause, they did not fear to lay hands on the divine scriptures, saying that they had corrected them, nor can they show the originals from which they made their copies. So what he's saying there is that the scriptures that are being written, where are those originals? What the ones that are different than what we have here? The ones that we have here, where are these? They're different over here because we have the originals. Where are their originals? They don't have them. Augustine wrote, and if any uncertainty remained, we should consult the original text. Well, how can you consult the original text in 400 AD if you don't have it? Well, you can if you do have it. That's a big problem. So the conclusion we can arrive at, you have ancient texts were used for centuries. That is a demonstrable fact. We have direct attestation to the autographs of the Gospel of John, 200 years after it was supposed to have been written. Same with Luke, over 100 years later. The autographs were consulted to ensure that what was in them was accurate to what they had at the time, and they were used to defend orthodox beliefs against heresies. So when we look at the timeline again, let me take this silly thing off here. I can't. See, this is what happens when you start with a new platform. There we go. Okay, so when we look at the timeline again, consulting the timeline, you have the Gospel of John being referenced around 300 AD. You have Tertullian referencing the epistles around 190, and the Gospel of Luke. You have the Codex Vaticanus, which was written in the middle of the 4th century. It was used for 600 years. Same thing with the Sinaiticus, was used up to the 8th century. And then you have Islam telling us that you can't believe any of this over here because we got it all right here. Horse feathers. All right, last thing that we're going to go through is variants. Variants. Now, this comes from Dan Wallace's book. I have it back here. And he talks about how many Greek manuscripts. I can't, the 5,800 is not right. It's supposed to be 5,600. I'm sorry. But that varies depending on, I guess, the day of the week or the most most up-to-date scholarship. It changes. Sometimes they add some to it, say this is original here by itself, and then they'll say, well, no, this manuscript here goes with this manuscript over here, so we have to reduce it. So it fluctuates a little bit, but nothing on the order of magnitude that would change in the thousands. We have 10,000 Latin manuscripts, 5,000 other ones. He calls it the embarrassment of riches. When we look at the New Testament itself, it has 138,000 and some odd words, 140,000 words. And of that, with the manuscripts we have, there's about 300 to 400,000 variants. But the problem with that, you're saying, oh my goodness, look at all that variants. And we have more variants, 3 times as many variants, or over two and a half times more variants than we have manuscripts. Yes. Are words in the New Testament? But yes, but it's not a problem because you have so many manuscripts. If you only had one manuscript, you wouldn't have any variants. Think of it that way. But of these variants, he says that 99.925% are neither meaningful or viable. They do not change the meaning of the text. There's spelling errors, word order is different. Maybe spelling a name differently. It's not a big deal. when you look at the 20,000 lines of the New Testament, there's only 40 of them that are really in question. And none of those have anything to deal with core Christian beliefs. None of them do. You know, you go to 1 John 5:7, where it talks about the Trinity. You can find the Trinity throughout the rest of the New Testament. No problem. The woman caught in adultery. What does that have to do with any Christian tenet that you can't find someplace else? The forgiveness of sins, really? We're supposed to forgive others? Yeah, you find it all over the New Testament. The long ending of the Gospel of Mark. Okay, so they're playing with snakes. Do we play with snakes today in our church? No. Are there people that do? Yes, some of them do because they believe the long ending of Mark. But it doesn't have any bearing on your salvation, for Pete's sake. So when you listen to these arguments from Muslims about, well, the Gospels have been corrupted. No, they haven't. You can say that there's been changes. Okay, fine. But when you start talking about corruption to the point where Christ isn't described as the Son of God, where you talk about corruption where it doesn't describe Christ as dying on a cross, when you describe corruption as Christ never being resurrected from the dead, when you describe corruption as the believers didn't believe that he was God incarnate, you're wrong, because it definitely does teach all those things that haven't been corrupted. Okay, when we look at Bart Ehrman, may Allah be pleased with him, here's what he says in his book. I have it right back here. Where is it? It's back here someplace. It's in it. It's, oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. I just had it back here. Doggone you, Catherine. Anyway, in his book, in the appendix part of it, this is what he writes. We was talking about Bruce Metzger, which was his, they wrote a book together, and he was his mentor. This is what he says. We are in complete agreement on the number of very important historical and textual questions. If he and I were put in a room and asked to hammer out a consensus statement on what we think the original text of the New Testament probably looked like, there would be very few points of disagreement. Maybe 1 or 2 dozen places out of many thousands. The position I argue for in misquoting Jesus does not actually stand at odds with Professor Metzger's position that the essential Christian beliefs are not affected by textual variants in the manuscript tradition of the New Testament. So the leading critic that is often cited by Muslims, Bart Ehrman, does not make their case for them. As a matter of fact, he refutes their case that the Bible has been corrupted and we can't know what it teaches. He's full of crap. Okay. Does anybody have anything else that they want to add? Hello. Hello. Anybody? Anybody there? Looks like everybody took a break.
Yes. I got something to add to this. You silly kuffar. Why will you not listen to the Muslims when they say that the Quran is 100% perfectly preserved and your Bible is corrupt? The only thing is this kafir, this what Eric the kafir has done is prove that the Bible is perfectly preserved. No, he has proved that it's perfectly corrupt.
Yeah, you just get tired, you know, and I can sense a lot of people who deal with this are just growing tired of having to repeat the same thing over and over and over and over again. What I think I might do is just like develop a pamphlet, like a little go-to guide when they start making these silly arguments on, you know, the Bible's been corrupted. No, it hasn't. Here's what we have. You tell me what the problem is. Here's what your hero Bart Ehrman has to say about your argument.
Actually, no, Bart Ehrman has said unequivocally that the Bible is not corrupt. His problem with the Bible is that he's just an atheist and doesn't believe because of suffering. Okay? He has actually said on record that the Bible is not miraculous. He said it is a wonderfully preserved document from ancient antiquity. Okay? No, he's never said. Actually, he said that if he was to actually write a Bible, unlike Uthman, okay, this is funny. Unlike Uthman, who is a believer, not Uthman. What's his name? The guy that in our closing, the guy that puts holes in the narrative.
Yasser Qadi.
Yasser Qadi. Okay.
This guy we're going to talk about here in just a second. Yeah.
Yeah. So Yasser Qadi. Okay. Unlike Yasser Qadi, who actually says that there are holes in the narrative, and if he was given a blank book and he was told to write a Musaf, a Quran, okay, it would vary different from the Quran that they have today. He was forced to admit it thanks to Mimi Hijab, Mojab, Muhammad Hijab, okay, all right. Bart Ehrman says no. If he was to write a New Testament, it would be like what we have the New Testament today. There would be no variation, okay, of any significant proportion. Christ would be crucified. Christ would have raised from the dead. All the rulings, all the edicts, everything, okay, would be there, okay?
I would say because it's Bart Ehrman and he's human, he's not God, that it would have several problems. But it's Bart Ehrman. I mean, come on. I mean, it's not. It's going to be written far better than the Quran. But
no. Either way,
it won't be
what I'm
perfect
saying is this. Either way, what he's saying is this: there would be no real definite variation in what he produced. But here, Uthman, or not Uthman, I'm sorry, what's his name? Yasser Qadi says yes, there would be variation. Is my point. Where we have a non-believing atheist saying that if he was to take all the textual variants and reproduce the New Testament, it would be equally like what we have today. And we have a Muslim who is of Yasser Qadi, who has memorized the Quran, who has studied the Quran, and he says that, well, no, there will be definite differences. Do you see what I'm saying? Okay? All right? Two unequal weights, okay? All right? But the point being is this. Our Bible stands, okay? Significantly stronger than this
Eric,
garbage that they produce.
How old is the oldest full Quran?
People are saying that it's the Hops, which
It's
is
100 years. 100 years.
I don't see how you get to that when we have the Sunnah manual. The Sunnah manual, well, it's not a full Quran, I guess.
That's what I'm getting at.
It's no. So
all right. Okay, all right. So that
has to be the full Quran. Yes.
Yeah.
Well, no, that's a good question. We'll have to ask AI that.
No, the answer is 100 years. Yeah, that answer is 100 years. Yeah. Who do we know that was celebrating a 100th birthday when we got together this summer?
Let me try.
100th birthday for the Quran. That was a friend of ours from England.
Let's see here. The oldest known manuscript is believed the Sana manuscript discovered in Yemen in 1972. This manuscript dates back to approximately the 7th or 8th century, making it around 1,300 years old. There are earlier Quranic manuscripts such as the Tashkent and the Topkapi are manuscript in Istanbul, but the Sana is widely considered the oldest. And it's worth noting that the Quran has been transmitted both orally and in its written form since the time of the Prophet Muhammad in the 7th century. Now, this is Chat GGP.
Yeah, I'm more of the belief. I'm more nowadays of the belief that it was probably created around 700, or the 700s. Not. I don't think Muhammad lived. I'm more of that belief now. I don't know if he would have to live in a place that's not a desert, because he described everything that's describing about him, this concept of Mecca is places where there's fruit trees.
Yeah.
Paul. Are you saying you no longer believe that there was a person named Muhammad that lived around Mecca, Medina in the 7th century Arabia?
There's no. Actually, I don't believe there's anyone named Muhammad. I believe there's
Uh,
someone maybe named Cutham.
uh,
Muhammad wasn't his real name. Cutham was a title. I mean, Muhammad
oh,
was a title. So
uh,
no, I don't.
anyway,
I think the history of the Quran is so full of hiccups. Like, show me one example. You can't do this with the Bible. That's the cool thing.
no.
Show
Okay,
me one
so
example of one of these first four caliphs that was actually outside of Islam
Right.
in history. Yeah, you can't do that.
so just to be clear, Paul, you are saying that this person, this fictional person that Muslims believe in, named Muhammad, did not exist in 7th
Well, we know
century
we
Arabia.
know there's nothing. There's no recorded history outside of Islam or the man
Okay.
named Cutham. Now, Muhammad wasn't.
I just wanted to do that. Thank you. So,
Well, and Paul's absolutely right. Outside of the Rashidun period, you don't have no mention of Abu Bakr, Omar, Uthman, Ali outside of the Islamic traditions. They're only mentioned in the Islamic traditions, that were written down and developed, oh, by the way, 200 years later. Especially when you get to the Sirah, the same problem, 2 centuries later. So all of this history is late, 9th and 10th century stuff.
no, so
Yeah.
we are 100% Muhammad deniers. This is great.
I'm not. I wouldn't go as far as
I'll be a Muhammad denier, but I'll be a Cutham possible believer if he lives in a place that's known for other people. Now, if he lived in a place called Petra, I could believe Cutham existed, but I don't have any evidence of a man named Muhammad.
So
Cutham, maybe.
yes, so we're all Muhammad deniers. This is brilliant. I love this.
well,
We need to make T-shirts.
the historical Muhammad denier.
Right.
I don't know if I would go as far as Paul and say that Muhammad himself, as a self-proclaimed prophet, did not live.
I'm just saying his name didn't exist. I'm saying he could be
Yeah.
Cutham, but his
No,
real
no,
name
no.
is Cutham.
I know the history to include the history of Mecca, like Mecca. I don't believe that Mecca existed in the 7th century. And the reason why is there's no archaeological evidence to support that. If there was archaeological evidence to support it, you could change my mind by producing some right away.
But we can't because they destroyed it because there was nothing to begin with.
Exactly.
Being
What
exist.
and this is the thing that still kills me. I mean, every time I know Eric goes over this. All right, if you are a culture and you want to learn, every time you get an opportunity and you're going to dig something up, you'd want to send an archaeological team there, especially if it's supposed to be one of the oldest places in history. But they never do that. In fact, what they do is they cement over the earth so you can't do any more research. And that would be Saudi Arabia.
Yep.
Yeah. They're just. You're right. They're cementing over the entire thing and building those big high.
Well, here's the thing. Muhammad is a title. And if you
Yeah.
look at Mecca, okay, what they call Mecca, it's a wadi. It's a place, honestly, look at pre-Muslim Arabian culture, okay, which I have done. There are plenty of articles. I can't cite them, but there are plenty that deal with this, okay? When the Arab tribes would war against each other, okay, they would go to a Mecca. They would make a Mecca, a wadi, okay, that's in a valley. That's in a valley that's in a floodplain, okay? And they would sit there, they would come together, and they would build a Kaaba. And they would elect a Muhammad, a praised one, or elevate someone to be the Muhammad, the praised one. And this person would go out there, and he would be the sole arbitrator that could seal peace between these interwarring tribes. So there are multiple Muhammads running around, even in Islamic history. There's a Muhammad that they did the first the war of compulsion against. That it was a Muhammad. Okay? What's the name? Muhammad Yazidi or something like that. Okay? Yazid, Muhammad, whatever. But he was a competing Muhammad. There are all these Muhammads in Arabia at this time. And one won out, but he was not everything they put to this Quran, as Paul has said, is not in what they call Mecca. They invented this Mecca that no one wanted to go to because it's a horrid place. But they made
How
it
many
to
people
such
want
a
to go around a circle, counterclockwise? How many people want to go counterclockwise in a tradition that is admittedly, even in Sharia, admittedly pagan? So the Muslims
No.
follow pagan rituals according to Sharia.
And if you look at it, this is actually, I would say, a demonic. No, listen to this. Everything is, it's counterclockwise. It's counter to modernity. You see what I'm saying? It goes backwards. Even their calendar actually goes backwards and does not go forward. Look at it, seriously. They do not do the intercalculation part. If you are on a lunar calendar, you actually have to do this intercalculation where you do so it aligns with the solar calculator. And this is very important. Why? Because crops have to be planted at a certain time. Okay? You cannot be off by several months throughout the year. You need to know exactly within a few weeks of when to plant your crops, especially certain crops. Okay? Am I right, Eric, the farmer?
Yes, of course.
You can't be off.
And well, it depends on the region too.
Right, no.
Regions can only plant during certain times, and plus you have to measure the moisture. And never mind. Go ahead.
No. But no, seriously. Actually, no. I would say all regions. Whatever plant that you are going to cultivate, and there's a variety of plants. There is a certain time you have to sow those seeds, and that time is based on a solar calendar, or if it's a lunar calculator, you have to calculate that intercalculation period that brings you back within a week, not fluctuation. Look at Mecca. Look at Ramadan. Ramadan goes backwards throughout the year. Look at it. Ramadan, let's say Ramadan this year is on June 1st to whatever. Next year, it's going to be in May. The next year, it's going to be in April. It goes backwards. It proceeds backwards, not forwards. But you look at the Jewish calendar, and again, they do the intercalculator. It all proceeds forwards and then catches up with us every 4 years or so. Okay? Do you see what I'm saying? Okay? It catches up with us. Well, we're on the solar calendar. Okay? They're on the lunar calendar. They do the intercalculation. So they're off by a week or two. But eventually, over 4 to 8 years, it catches up. And that's how we can kind of have where Passover and Easter are pretty much on the same week or weekend. Okay? Which happens every 4 to 6 years. But Muslims, no, they go backwards. Their whole religion is backwards.
I wanted to point out something that Elizabeth posted in the chat. The one that says biblical archaeology, people, cultures, people in the Bible, New Testament. This one right here. If you go there, this article says 30 people in the New Testament confirmed. So in other words, what it can do is it confirm the lives of people that are named in the New Testament, people that are named in the New Testament that we can confirm outside of the Bible. Now, when you compare that, then there's 30 of them here. Let me see. Jesus, Gamaliel, John the Baptist, James, Annas, Caiaphas, Tiberius, Claudius, Nero, Augustus. Okay, so all these people that are named, Herod, Herodias, all these people that are named in the Bible, we have extra biblical evidence that supports them. My question would be, is how many people exist in the Quran? How many people exist in the Quran that can be supported using extra Quranic evidence? Now, I get you have Alexander the Great, Dul al-Qarnayn, the two-horned one. Okay, that's one. Jesus, okay, that's two. His mother, Mary. Okay, well, which Mary is he talking about? And can you actually prove that Mary, the mother of Jesus, actually lived? And I don't think that you can outside of the Bible. So even then, he screws that up when saying that she's the sister of Moses or sister of Aaron, daughter of Imran. It makes absolutely no sense. So there's a big problem there. But if you go to that article that Elizabeth posted, it looks like a treasure trove of information. I wasn't aware that there were that many that can be proved. I have an article here, or not an article, a posting by a one Dr. Yasakati, the Holes in the Narrative guy that Brad had mentioned earlier, when he went to post about our national holiday, Thanksgiving. We just recently that was this past week. It was this past week. That's right. So this past week we celebrated our Thanksgiving in our country, which is the day that we are to be mindful of being thankful for the bountiful things that we are blessed with, whether they are physical possessions, freedoms, living in our country, a safe food supply. Oh, by the way, and in doing so, Yasser Qadi can't help himself of being some type of anti-American pig that he is. And this is the desperation that we get from Muslims of his ilk and stripe. Here's his post. Let's just go ahead and show that. How can Americans not see the irony of celebrating Thanksgiving, a holiday rooted in Native American genocide, while still funding the brutal oppression of Palestinians today, a nation built on stolen land, now enabling the theft of another's? Gratitude without justice is hypocrisy. And number one, I would just like to remind Yasser that Thanksgiving is not rooted in Native American genocide. Yasser, I don't know how to fix this. You're supposed to have a PhD from, esteemed Ivy League school. And what you've probably done is you probably listened to those professors that so famously have shown their stripe and ilk of being anti-Semitic pigs that they are. To say that Thanksgiving is rooted in Native American genocide is stupid. It really is. Thanksgiving.
Can you pull it up?
Finish that. Let me finish this because this really pisses me off. Thanksgiving is a holiday that was established to celebrate life. The Pilgrims were going to live, and the reason why they were going to live is because they had flippin' food. That first year that they landed in Plymouth, half of them died, and they died because they came to the New World to escape religious persecution. Religious persecution that your faith perpetrates on everybody and every other religion it comes in contact with. Oh, by the way, half of them died because they did not have any food that winter. They got there late in the year. They got there in November when they were supposed to get there in September. They got there late. They didn't get off the ship during the winter because they couldn't do anything on land. And they starved to death. So that spring, they encounter a Native American by the name of Squanto. I went over this on Lloyd's show. Squanto actually had been a Native American that had been sold into slavery in Spain, had gone to England, And in England, he learned how to speak English, of course, comes to the America, lives in that area, encounters the Pilgrims, and teaches them how to farm, what indigenous crops to use, where to fish, where to hunt. And so in that fall, in 1621, they knew they weren't going to starve. They knew that they weren't going to die. And so they gave thanks to God for that. It has nothing to do with Native American genocide. Oh, by the way, which I'll tell you, was not because of the white man coming over here and slaughtering Native Americans. It was because of the diseases. When you had a cross-cultural diseases encountering one another, people died. It wasn't intentional, but it did happen. It isn't like somebody storming out of the Arabian Peninsula, marching across the North African continent, slaughtering everybody that refuses to bow and knee to Mecca, which didn't exist at the time. Oh, by the way, and going all the way up in Tours, France, by 732, up there, in Indian Europe, trying to force Europeans to become Muslim, and then going across the east and killing millions and millions of Hindus and Zoroastrians along the way. That would be genocide. Second thing you point out here, funding the brutal oppression of Palestinians today. The only people that are oppressing the Palestinians today is the Hamas holes. They have brought this upon the Palestinian people. Lastly, a nation built on stolen land. The land wasn't stolen. This is the way cultures rolled back then. Lands were conquered. If you want to say lands are stolen, I could just easily make the argument that, let's say, Egypt was stolen from the Christians. Iran was stolen from the Christians, from the Persians. Turkey today, Saint Sophia, Hagia Sophia, the largest Christian cathedral, is stolen. If you want to say that, are you going to make that argument? Yes, sir. So despite your desire to harsh our buzz of being thankful on Thanksgiving, you can piss off. All right. Go ahead, Brad. What were you going to say? I'm sorry.
Okay. So I'm just going to add, okay, first of all, correction. I do correct myself. The Islamic calendar does not go backwards, as I said. It does advance forward every 2 weeks. The point I was trying to make is that Ramadan, okay, will wind up 2 weeks from Ramadan was, okay, anyway, it will advance 2 weeks every year throughout the year, where Ramadan, okay, next year will be in the summertime. Ramadan 10 years from now, or 5 years from now, will be in the wintertime. My point being is this: you cannot have a calendar, especially a holy calendar, okay, if you are an agricultural society that does this. It does not work, okay? Anyway, it's just stupidity. That's why the Jewish calendars, they're all set around specific times, and all calendars are set around specific time. You have the planting time, which you have your festivals. You have your midsummer time festivals, okay? Which is a reaping of certain fruits and produce. And then you have finally the fall harvest time. Okay? Do you see what I'm saying? But anyway, I digress on that. As far as Yasser Qadi, he bought up a bunch of that stolen land. He's building his Islamic community on that stolen land.
Oh, that's right. I forgot about that. Yeah.
Why doesn't he give that money? Why doesn't he give that land back to all the homeless indigenous people? Well, yeah. Anyway. No, they're fine. These lefties will sit there and they will just slam the United States of America as they enjoy living off of that stolen land. I remember I was actually, my last job in the corporate world was they had to give a land ceremony at every meeting. I'm not making this up. You go to a meeting, and they would spend 15 minutes of the meeting, okay, a business meeting, an IT business meeting. 15 minutes of the meeting was to give a land blessing, land acknowledgement. We are here on stolen land that was originally by the Iroquois And the
What do stop. What are you talking about?
Okay, so when you were, well, actually, this is changing now. But 5 years ago in corporate America was my last corporate gig. It was before the pandemic. Okay, before I went independent. Okay, they would have actually, I could name the company State Farm. Okay, they would have land blessings. Okay, so before the pandemic. Okay, land blessings where you would go to a meeting. Okay, your average once a month meeting, okay, all right, and they would for your department, for your team, and someone would have to go up and give the land blessing that you are sitting here on stolen land, the Iroquois, the Yamaha, the blah, blah, blah. And I remember this. They always added a different tribe to it. Okay. Well,
Sounds to me like you need to get laid off or something.
I did, but that's beside the point. Anyway, no, from that company. No, that was my last corporate gig before I went independent. Anyway, point being is this. Well, no, that's now changing now, as I'm told from some of my corporate friends who want me to go back in a corporate environment, but I'm like, I don't know if I want to do that. But anyway, point being is this, okay? None of these dudes, or these women, actually, it was mostly white, little, purple-haired, colored, liberal women that would do this. Okay, the land blessing. None of them are willing to give up their multi-$100,000 estate, mansion, townhome, whatever, to the homeless Native people. It's as long as they acknowledge the land that they stole. It soothes their grieving heart. These are pathetic people. Anyway, point being is this. This dude ain't giving the land back. Now, you mentioned the first Thanksgiving. That Native American, what was his name again?
Squanto.
Squanto. That is a story that needs to be told in depth more often. Here's a dude sold into slavery, taken from his land, goes to a land he does not know, learns the languages, converts to Christianity, comes back and saves Christians. No, that is providence. Okay? This is a story that is not really told. Okay? Do you see what I'm saying?
Yeah,
okay?
Absolutely.
Okay. But either way, I'm sorry.
Hold on.
Let me finish up with this. Native Americans at the time when we colonized it were Stone Age man. They did not. They have the wheel as a child's toy, but they did not have the wheel as a means of mobility. They couldn't figure that out. Why? Because they killed all the freaking horses. They killed the buffalo. They did not tame the buffalo. They did not use the buffalo as a beast of burden. These were. I'm sorry. They had. They did not. They did not conquer copper. They did not conquer tin and bronze or iron and steel. They came in contact.
Those points are, relevant because when you start talking about stronger cultures and civilizations winning out, it's just the history of the world. And people like Yasser Qadi want to try to make other people ashamed of their culture, ashamed of their nation's history. As somebody who taught American history in our public schools for 17 years, not once would I try to make people ashamed of the United States, its founding, and its principles. Does that mean that I don't teach slavery? Does that mean that I don't teach the Trail of Tears? Of course not. You of course you teach those things. but that does not mean that your country is inherently evil. I can tell you what's inherently evil. What is inherently evil is your Allah, verse 65:4, where it enables a man, a grown adult man, to marry a prepubescent, yes, that says that specifically in that verse, marry her, consummate that marriage.
No. Aisha, how old was Joseph? How old was Joseph? Oh!
Divorce that 9-year-old girl before she had her first period. That's evil. So don't try to sit there and condescend to us about what the American experience is, especially when you believe a pedophile was a prophet. Okay, I have another video clip here that I ran across today, and it's titled Groundbreaking Discovery. And I'm not sure how groundbreaking this is, but it was interesting. I want to show it if you all don't mind. It's off of Facebook. It seems like I was off of Facebook, so let me go ahead and play this. Can you hear that? You know why you can't hear it? It's because I can't hear it. Why can't I hear this? Because I didn't push this.
No sound. No sound.
Can you hear us, Eric?
I can't hear it, Eric.
What?
Can't hear it. There's no sound.
Why not?
I don't know.
Did you have your speakers on?
Yep, I can hear you.
Yeah.
Hey,
Is there captions?
Nico, can you hear it?
No, we can hear you, but we can't hear the video. Is there captions to the video? Maybe we could just read it. If there's...
What is wrong with you people? All right. Let me see if I can let me go out and come back in. Let's see here. Show on stream. Let me do that. Okay, so stop showing, share. Let's do this. Oh, for Pete's sake. Come on, Capper. Is that it? Was that it? Yes, this is it. Okay. So stop. Stop. Let's try it again. Screen or no. Video. Understand. Let's proceed. No, that's not the one. Okay. This is a new platform, folks. And I'm just trying to figure out how to operate it. It is proving to be more difficult than I anticipated. All right. Nope. Hold on. Nope. Can you hear that?
Just barely heard something, but not really.
Just barely, or you can?
Nothing.
I can't hear nothing, dude.
All right, so let's go ahead and scrap that. We'll have that worked out by next week. Okay, last thing that I wanted to do today before we go is this has kind of been an often made theme on what's his face's platform. What's his face? That's disrespectful. Avery, GodLogic's platform. He's been talking about the Injil quite a bit. This is we've heard this come up, and so I just wanting to go out and try to go out and look at and see what some of the arguments are from an Islamic point of view. Because you don't want to live in a glass bubble, or not glass bubble, in a bubble where it's like an echo chamber. You believe everything that you hear, and the only thing that you hear is those things that you agree with. So I'm one of those people that actually will engage and will go out and listen to the views of people and their justification for those views, the people that I disagree with. I don't mind doing that. So this Injil shtick, I went out and started looking at some articles here. So I went to this website here. The website is called True Islam, or Quran Islam, right here. Here it is. Quran Islam is the name. Oh, you can't see it. Sorry. Quran Islam is the name of the site. And it printed this article about the Injil. And so, what does the Quran say about previous books? Were they corrupted? And the people of Injil shall rule in accordance with God. So it gives some references to the Injil we sent, following in the footsteps of Jesus, son of Mary, confirming that came before him. The Torah we gave him, look at that. We gave him the Injil. We gave him the Injil, containing guidance and light and confirming what came before it, the Torah, providing guidance and advice for the reverent. And the people of the Injil shall rule in accordance. So it does say the Injil, the God, which means the Evangelion, which is the Gospels. Okay. Now look what it says. The New Testament we have today is not the Injil for the following reason. The New Testament was written after Jesus. Very good. Very, very good. The Gospels that we have today, to include the rest of the New Testament, was written after the death, burial, resurrection, and ascension of Jesus Christ. Yes. The New Testament is a collection of stories about Jesus, his teachings and sayings. Did God give Jesus a book about his life and sayings? The New Testament was written by Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John, and Paul, who never met Jesus. Oh boy. God did not give the Injil to those men, but it was given to Jesus. Now, look what it says. The original Injil was given to Jesus, was destroyed, and the possession of any copies of it was banned after the Council of Nicaea, when the doctrine of the Trinity was developed. Okay. Is any of that true? Well, the New Testament, yes, was written after Jesus. The New Testament is indeed a collection of books or stories about Jesus. And the New Testament was written by Matthew, Mark, and Luke, and John. But look what it says. The original Injil that was given to Jesus was destroyed. Is there any evidence for that?
Eric, I'm just curious. Now, is the Injil what the angels wrote down when they went into his mother's womb and they asked Allah, what will this person do? What will he like? Things like that. Is that their concept of the Injil? A spiritual book that no one ever sees?
Well, that's the problem. That's the point that I'm trying to make. You can make up anything in order to support you can make up any argument to support your religion. I could say just as easily that Muhammad came to confirm what Jesus taught to the Arabian people. He did teach Trinitarianism. He did teach that Jesus Christ was crucified on the cross. He was the Son of God. He did teach that Jesus is resurrected and he's the Lord of Lords, and it's only through him that we can be saved. And it was Uthman. It was Uthman when he collected the Quran. He changed all of that. Well, how do we know that Uthman did that? Well, the Muhammad were written down by Abu Bakr. It says it right there in your sayings. And everything in the compilation of the Quran was all the evidence for that was burned. Is that true? According to Islamic history? No, it's not true. But I can make the same argument using the same standards of evidence that they do for this Injil. This Injil never existed. This Injil, nobody ever flipping mentions it all the way up till the time of Muhammad.
Well,
and
it's evidence that Islam is false because they don't have they have no record of an Injil. So that is record of Islam's falseness.
Yeah, they have no record of Injil. They have no record of Mecca. They have no record of Muhammad. It's all a lie. It's all made up. There's a reckoning coming, folks. I'm telling you, there's a reckoning coming, a historical reckoning coming with Islam. And this avalanche that what's his name, Bilal Phillips or whatever the heck his name was, says it's coming, and and we can see it. We can see it in Iran today, but we can see it also around the globe. People are leaving this religion. Why? Because as information, the internet proliferates, AI proliferates, they are going to be able to go in and see that what they have been told by their imamas is simply not true. It's a lie being told to them.
I think it'd be fun to use AI and say, show me evidence that Muhammad existed without using any Islamic sources. Sorry, we can't find any evidence. I think the AI would say there is no proof outside of Islam.
Let me type this. What evidence is there for Muhammad of Islam? What evidence is there for Muhammad of Islam
Outside of Islamic sources.
outside of Islamic sources? Okay. The historical evidence of the life of Muhammad, the founder of Islam, outside Islamic of the story, is somewhat limited. Okay, it says Byzantine sources. Theophanes, the confessor in the 8th century.
There's no evidence that existed anywhere near his lifetime.
John of Damascus does not mention Muhammad.
That's right.
In his work Heresies, he mentions Muhammad as the founder of the Arabic sect of Islam. No. I would beg to differ on that. I'm willing to be wrong, but I don't think he does. Syriac Christian text, the Doctrina Jacobi Nupur Baltazati, 6th or 7th century. This is a Syriac Christian text that refers to a figure named Muhammad, sometimes written as Muhammad, as a prophet. Sibus, an American bishop, an Armenian bishop in the 7th century, wrote a chronicle that mentions the rise of Islam and refers to Muhammad as a leader of the Arabs who led them.
No, it doesn't. No,
Yeah.
it doesn't.
Yeah, but you're right. I mean, all of these things, coins of the Umayyad Caliphate.
That exists.
In,
But you know what? It doesn't exist that there was. I mean, this is just, yeah, it's all scam. The scam. The MHMT. They forgot to mention there's a cross on those coins too.
Right. Yeah. Earliest Muslim historians. No, we're talking about just extra. So outside non-Islamic sources, Al-Tabari is who they cite here. The Battle of Yarmouk, fought in 636 between the forces of the Byzantine Empire and the Rashidun Caliphate, is mentioned in both Byzantine and Islamic sources.
But again, that's no evidence for Muhammad.
Right. Well, while the event itself is recorded in some detail by Christian sources, it also corroborates the rapid rise of Islam and militarist leadership of the early Muslim community, which is attributed to Muhammad. So that, no.
Does it mention that they were paying homage to the Byzantine Empire, the Muslims?
It doesn't say that here, but yeah. Early Islamic expansion can be found in very contemporary sources. Byzantine, Sasanian.
We don't have anything. Even AI is corrupted by Islamic sources. That's crazy.
You're right.
We know that.
But
we know it.
The confessor does not mention. Let's see, and mentions. I figure I'm gonna look that one up. I know John Damascus is not true, and these other ones, this is. So when we start looking at just the historicity of, well, hold on, let me do this. This is what evidence is there for the existence of Mecca in the 7th century? Bam. Let's see what it says. It's I did this before when I did this show on Mecca.
Post it on screen. Post it on.
What?
Sure. Post it up. Sure.
I didn't understand you. I'm sorry.
He's asking you to post it.
Oh,
on the
post
screen.
it. Oh, post it. Oh, you
Sure.
want to read it to you? Okay, hold on. Let's get rid of this. Hide screen. Share screen. Understand. Proceed. There we go. Right there. Okay. Chat GGP. Nope, wrong one. There we go. There it is. Oh, wow. I can have both of these and just click in between them. Look at there, boy. Okay, early Islamic sources, yeah. The Quran doesn't count. Hadith literature doesn't count. The Sirah doesn't count. Coins and inscriptions does not do that. In the Umayyad Caliphate, such as Abd Malik, around 690, mentioned the house of God, the Kaaba. No, this is after Muhammad, and this is an Islamic attribution. And I would also say Abd Malik
Is possibly the creator of Islam.
you can say that. Archaeological evidence. Lack of direct archaeological evidence. Unlike many other ancient cities, there has been no direct evidence, archaeological evidence, that clearly definitively points to this Mecca in the 7th century. Thank you. They're getting better.
Actually, we're about to get better at it.
Yeah, they are getting better. Let me make this bigger so you can read this. I think I'm making this up. They've been excavations have been limited since significance of the city and its modern populations, and made large-scale excavations challenging. Most they focus on religious sites, the Kaaba, and the surrounding areas. Pre-Islamic artifacts. Some evidence for pre-Islamic trade routes and presence of settlement in the region around Mecca has been found. But have they been found in Mecca? No. Archaeological findings such as inscriptions and pottery suggest that the areas known to pre-Islamic eras involved trade routes. Not in Mecca, it did not. Yemen, Syria, and Medina. However, these findings do not directly pinpoint the city of Mecca as a significant urban center. Oh,
there you go.
Historical reference from non-historical sources. Byzantine and Sasanian sources do not. I can say this with a certitude that they do not mention Mecca. They don't mention, and when you talk about all these documents that they would look for people to recruit for their armies, and they would write out gazetteers, whatever the heck they called them, detailing the people groups and where they lived and how many people lived there and what their culture was like, what their religion like. Nobody mentions the Qurayshi tribe. Nobody mentions the Qurayshi tribe. Nobody mentions Mecca. So this Byzantine and Sassanine sources is bunk. Let's see.
So what you're saying, if I understood you correctly, is that the Qurayshi tribe may not exist. That means the best ethnicity of all of Islam, according to Islam, didn't exist, possibly.
It didn't exist. Nobody mentions it. That's the problem. Nobody writes it down and says because they have all kinds of evidence for all kinds of tribes that inhabited that region, known cities that are easily attributed today to that region, but nothing in Mecca and nothing about the Qurayshi.
Hey, you know what? This is pretty funny, because if we look at the difference between Shiites and Sunnis, and we understand that the Shiites like the idea of a genetic tie to a caliph, what happens to them when they realize it's all made up?
It falls. Everything's going to fall apart. It's going to
a house of cards.
Yep. Okay. Trade and pilgrimage routes. Mecca as a trade center? No, it wasn't. We've gone over the trade route theory several times, showing that in order to get to Mecca, let's say there was a trade route. Let's just pretend that there was a trade route. And there's some evidence that there was a trade route that reached the southern tip of Arabia.
It says it right there. It's only found in Islamic sources.
Yeah, Mecca was strategically located on trade routes connecting with Turkey, in particular, central stop for caravans traveling between Yemen and the Levant. Reference to Mecca's role as trade pilgrimage hub are found in Islamic sources. Yeah, exactly.
That's it.
But here's what I want to point out about that and why there nothing mentions Mecca. Mecca is not mentioned in any literature until 741, and it's not shown on any map until 900. Oops. But the reason why it was not mentioned is because it wasn't on a trade route. It didn't exist. In order to get to Mecca, let's say you start down here in Yemen, you have to go up on a plateau, and you travel across that plateau until you get to the Levant, and then you go back down. All right. In order to get to Mecca, you have to go up on that plateau, come down, and go right back up, and then go to what would be Gaza, Israel.
I mean, why would you go down the hill and then back up? I mean, this is just
There's no reason for it. You have to come like it's like 2,500 feet off of the plateau. It's even more than it seems like it's more than that. You have to come off that plateau down, and there's no water there. So yeah, pre-Islamic pilgrimage, archaeological and textual evidence also indicates that the Kaaba and Mecca were places of religious long before the advent of Islam. No. I would like to see it. As a matter of fact, let's do this. Let's see. Copy. Let's go down here. What? Let's see. Paste. Archaeological and textual evidence support the existence of Mecca in the 7th century. I must misspell it. That's all right. What archaeological and textual evidence? Quran, Hadith, Sirah. Byzantine side, we just went through that. Just went through that. Dome of the Rock, Al-Aqsa, really? Archaeological findings in the Hijaz region, pottery inscriptions, and other have been found to indicate the presence of settlements and trading activities in the Arabian Peninsula. Oh, gee whiz! includes the area of Mecca. Oh, gee, what were you talking about? The area of Mecca. Notice it doesn't say in Mecca. Because why? Mecca didn't exist. The Qumran description. One example of pre-Islamic is found in Najran. Najran is a city, a little hamlet, 50 miles to the south. The sanctuary of God. While this does not directly reference Mecca, it suggests a religious of certain locations in the region. Oh my gosh!
So they'll mention that they're not. Yeah, they're too afraid that you'll find out the truth.
We're gonna have to do a show on this. We would have a ball.
What can we find out from ChatGPT about Islam?
Yeah.
That would be a fun show. More of somebody else who does that.
Okay, let me write this down. What is that? GPT? What is that called?
Yeah.
Where are you? Chat GPT and Mecca. And that's Islam. Let's just put it.
Say Islam as a whole.
Yeah. So,
there we go. There's another one you can ask it. How old was Aisha?
Nice.
good. Come on. Okay. Let's. How old was Aisha?
Using solar years.
When Muhammad raped. Wait, no, I can't put that. When Muhammad consummated. Man, how did I spell that? How do you spell that? Consummated.
CONSUMMATED.
Consummated their marriage. Uh-oh. No direct, concrete articles confirming Mecca's. Oh, wait, sorry, wrong one. Okay, the age Aisha was consummated is a topic that is frequently discussed in Islamic history and scholarship. It is reported that she was 9 years old. Brad, where are you when we need you?
No, Aisha. How old was Joseph? How old was Joseph? Oh.
Thank you. Okay. Based on the narration by Aisha herself. Were you there? Well, yeah, Aisha was there. Context and considerations, other views. Yeah, we could have a ball with that. And we shouldn't. We shouldn't.
ChatGPT versus, there you go, ChatGPT. That's what you could title it.
Versus who?
ChatGPT versus Islam.
Yeah, but is it really a versus or a pro? I mean,
Well, you actually read the material. It's worth it. So they don't agree.
uh-oh.
Somebody's mumbling. We didn't hear you, Paul.
Chat GPT. Wow, I'm not mumbling or anything. Chat GPT versus Islam because Chat AI disagrees with the Islamic narrative, the standard Islamic narrative, or sin, as we can call it.
Okay. Does GPT agree with some? All right. I'm gonna write that down, make sure I get
That
that.
could be funny.
All
I
right.
love it.
We're going to close out the show. It's going on 7:30, and I have to eat some food because I've been going all day long. So next week, be here. Let me see. Next week we are going to be here. I am going to be skiing. I don't mean to brag or anything.
Yeah,
I'm
you're bragging. You got enough snow for skiing.
No, we're taking the grandkids to Colorado, but that's
Oh.
not until. Never mind. Oh, that's not supposed to be that date. Anyway, I'll figure it out. Okay, we'll be here next Monday though. I can promise you that. Excuse me, and hopefully I won't have a case of the sniffles and sneezing. Does anybody have anything they got to add before we go? Rad, cold close.
Should play on.
Should play automatically. We're going to try it. This is first time on Streamlabs, so and I feel I'm getting comfortable with it. I'm just going to have to use it a couple times, I suppose. So God bless y'all, and we will see you next time on the Cross the Crescent Discussion Group. Play outro and
advanced student and specialist that the standard narrative has holes. That's what
that the Muslims were rioting against one another. And as much as we don't want to face the fact, the Muslims were lying sometimes. They were fabricating, they were embellishing, and that might be hard to accept, but that is a reality.